Neversoft, how I knew you. Neversoft was one of the greatest game developers of its time. Yes, they're known mostly for their Go to Tony Hawk series that even I played the fuck out of growing up, and is one of the main things why this documentary is being made now. After the whole weird flip flop with the new 3-4 remake and how it was nowhere near good as the originals by any stretch of the mean or as creative, I got inspired to make this documentary, but not only by that. After I played one of my now new favorite games of all time, Gun, which I then found out was made by them, I decided to delve into their history and what the whole story of Neversoft even was to begin with. So, without further ado, let's dive into the life, story, the rise, and sadly, the tragic fall of Neversoft. But before we delve into this documentary, I have great news. I can finally explain why I've been much more busy with my uploads now than I've ever been. And it was because I was writing a book. Yes, I was writing a book, and it is now available. My novel, The Construction Worker, which you can see over here, is now available on Amazon and Kindle. You can buy it digitally with Kindle, or you can buy a paperback copy, an actual physical release. Or if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can also use your subscription of Kindle Unlimited to just stream the book using that subscription service. This book means a lot to me. It's inspired by novels such as Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. The book is inspired and based loosely on the life story of my grandfather, who I lost a few years back. And after reflecting a lot on him and my time with him growing up and everything, after seeing how, great of a life he lived and how interesting of a life he lived was, getting by, struggling in his small village back home in tough environments, I decided to make a book on it. So it's loosely stories from his life story mixed together with its own story. It's its own story with its own characters and everything, but heavily inspired by his real life story. So it means a lot to me, and that's why I took a big break to get this book written and finished, and then, reviewed and fixed up, and then finally released. So, yeah. Buy a copy today yourself, or get it digitally on Kindle. There will be a link in the description to it. If not, there will also be a link on my Twitter page, and which you could find by clicking the link on my YouTube banner. And also, just go to Amazon, search up The Construction Worker book, and look for this cover here. It would really mean a lot to me, guys, if you'd pick this up and read it for yourself. My first book ever, and I'm hoping this will lead to more to come in the future. I already have a ton of ideas for new novels already ready to go. But yeah, there's the book. Pick up a copy. It'll mean a lot to me if you did, and also, just to let me know what you guys think of it and how I did. Anyways, now let's get into the documentary, the story, the life, the death, the rise, the fall of one of the greatest GOATs of all time, Neversoft. Long ago, 3 employees of Malibu Interactive, a division of Malibu Comics, Joel Lewitt, who was at the time the head of development at the quickly slowly dying Malibu Interactive, Nick West, a game programmer who had just finished making a game for the Super Nintendo called Battletech, and Chris Ward, a video game artist. They all decided to team up and start their own game company in July of that same year, called Neversoft. For their first line of work, they signed with Playmates Interactive, a then division of Playmates Toys, who are about to release a new line of toys called Skeleton Warriors, and really wanted a video game to go along with the toys and the cartoon series they had in development. Neversoft began work on the game, designing it for the Sega Genesis within 5 months. However, Playmates canceled the game. Not because they were unhappy with the progress, they actually liked it, but because they had decided they wanted to instead have the game made for the Sega Saturn. So, 1995 was spent developing Skeleton Warriors for the Sega Saturn. Over the course of the year, Skeleton Warriors was finished in time for the 1995 holiday season, and Neversoft began looking for other work while their staff ported Skeleton Warriors to the PlayStation 1 in 1996. Until, finally, in 1997, they found work for 6 months on a game based on Ghost Rider for Crystal Dynamics, which, however, was sadly cancelled due to financial problems with their publisher. In need of work badly, Neversoft started to develop a game of their own, deciding to make their own thing, their own design. Initially called Big Guns, they finally sold Big Guns, the game, to Sony Computer Entertainment, and they began development right away. 1997 was a struggle of a year for Neversoft. The Big Guns game, now at this point in development renamed Exodus, went through numerous design changes at the behest of Sony, and ended up just being cancelled outright by Sony in November of that same year. This caused a blow to Neversoft so severe that they shrunk their staff to just 12 employees. Neversoft spent the next few months shopping around their technology, meeting with numerous companies and looking for work. Thankfully, in January of 1998, just as Neversoft was about to go bankrupt, they had a meeting with Activision, who were looking for someone to redevelop a game they were working on called Apocalypse, a failed internal project they were trying to get off the ground. The technology developed for Big Guns turned out to be the solution to fix the project. Activision was really impressed, and Neversoft began work on Apocalypse right away. In May of that same year, Apocalypse was going really well, so Activision decided, hey, Neversoft, you think you'd be able to throw together a prototype for a skateboarding game? After Apocalypse wrapped up and released in October of 1998, they got straight to work on a build for the new skateboarding game idea by reusing the engine from Apocalypse, which was also the same engine as Big Guns. From this, they made a test build of Bruce Willis on a skateboard, just ripping up some tricks on a destroyed old abandoned city. It was rough, but fun enough to get the blessing of pro skater himself, the Hawkman, Tony Hawk's, to sign off on the project, which led to the release of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the PlayStation 1 in August of 1999. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater became a massive hit, being the third highest selling PlayStation game of all time, selling 350,000 copies and even winning a Platinum Sales Award from the Entertainment and Leisure Software Publishers Association. It then later got a Nintendo 64 port, which then became the sixth highest selling Nintendo 64 game. All this success caused Activision to right away order a sequel for the following year, along with an order for a new Spider-Man video game to be made at the same time, which Neversoft was able to finish no problem, thanks to, once more, reusing the Big Guns engine again, to make Spider-Man at the same time as they made Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and both would get released on time at the same time for the PlayStation 1 the following year in the year 2000. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 sold double of its older brother on release day, and if that wasn't good enough, Spider-Man sold 300,000 copies right out the gate, earning Neversoft another Platinum Sales Award from Entertainment and Leisure Software Publishers Association. Neversoft was riding real high, making hit after hit, pleasing Activision by being able to get the job done nice and quick, just from being able to reuse their own in-house engine over and over for any project, causing Activision to buy Neversoft outright the following year, causing Neversoft to now be a subsidiary of Activision. Things were looking up, and with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 already immediately being ordered by Activision for next-gen consoles, things could only get better from here. After making the third best-selling PS2 game of all time, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, and changing up the formula to an open-world game with no more timer with the release of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 the following year, causing the best Tony Hawk's game ever to be made later on, Tony Hawk's Underground, and its fun, Jackass-inspired sequel, Tony Hawk's Underground 2, Neversoft began to get a bit bored with the series. They wanted to shake things up and make a new IP, so during development of their next game, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, Neversoft decided to split the team into two. One team would work on Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, and the other a brand new Western action-adventure open-world game called Gun. By sharing and using the exact same engine for Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, which was, once again, just their Tony Hawk's Underground engine, they were able to get both games once again released the following year at the same time in 2005. Gun was the first ever open-world Wild West game and did really well, getting praise from fans and critics alike, even winning 2 awards from GameSpy, the Editor's Choice Award and the Best Xbox 360 Action Game of the Year award. Fans and critics called out all over, screaming from their balconies at Activision, saying Gun deserves a sequel! Right away, please. Which sadly ended up being cancelled, due to the game causing Activision unwanted controversy. The Association for American Indian Development declared a boycott on the game, claiming that it contained harmful and inaccurate depictions of American Indians. They even on their website had a petition demanding that Activision clean up various aspects of the game before re-releasing it to retailers. Their group called for a worldwide recall of the game if the revision was not completed. Thankfully though, and I mean it very thankfully, Activision refused, and instead simply just issued a statement claiming that Activision does not condone or advocate any of the atrocities that occurred in the American West during the 1800s. Gun was designed to reflect the harshness of life on the American frontier at the time, not to offend. And you know what? I agree with them. Gun is amazing. I'm glad it came out the way it did. I love this game. I would go more on it and tell you why I love this game so much, but I'm going to save that for a later video. This game is so good, I genuinely have an entire solo episode of That's Unpopular just to discuss this game. So let's move on. Sadly though, due to this controversy, Gun never got a sequel. And due to Gun never getting a sequel and causing worry with Activision on new IP ideas being risky, it was back to making Tony Hawk's once again, with their next title being made right away, Tony Hawk's Project 8, in the following year of 2006. Tony Hawk's Project 8 also did really well and sold great. It even won the Sports Game of the Year award at the 10th Annual Interactive Achievements Awards. Things were still fine until, sadly, a new skating game finally came to the picture, taking away all of Neversoft's thunder. EA released a new skateboarding game called Skate in 2007, which took over the spot of Best Skateboarding Game. With its solid look, feel, and controls of realistic skateboarding, with actual pros giving in-depth knowledge on their craft to help the game be as realistic as it could be, it caused the Tony Hawk series to become old news, causing Neversoft to make Tony Hawk's Proving Ground, a Tony Hawk game that tried so hard to compete with Skate, getting a weird mix and mash of the original true Tony Hawk's formula mixed with the realistic movement and style of the Skate series, creating a hollow shell of an experience. It created a disappointment for true Tony Hawk's fans who just wanted the original Tony Hawk's formula, and was a total blank for Skate fans who would just rather wait for Skate 2 coming out soon, and had moved on from the Tony Hawk series long ago. This one only did okay, unlike the other games in the series that were praised beyond belief. Even Skate took over the sales and awards away from Neversoft that year. It caused such a limp blow to Activision, causing them to shift Neversoft over to a full-time Guitar Hero position, working on nothing but Guitar Hero titles all the way until, sadly, the band toy game gimmick idea died off with fans and ended in 2010. Around this time, Neversoft had no work at all, looking around for whatever positions they could until finally getting support work on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 to help it get out the door and in time for release in the following year of 2011. But thankfully, due to the fracturing of Infinity Ward coming apart, mostly due to their head developer, Mostly due to its head developer leaving, Neversoft was asked by Activision to develop a sci-fi spin-off title in the Call of Duty franchise, finally giving Neversoft work again. So they started experimenting with gravity gameplay and other aspects of the Call of Duty engine, really seeing what they could do with it. But over time, the project ended up just being scrapped, and all assets along with the idea were reused and transformed into Call of Duty Ghosts, which Neversoft co-developed with Infinity Ward. Later on, the same engine and ideas were reused for Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, that got made by Sledgehammer Games and Neversoft together, which, sadly, would end up being Neversoft's last game they ever made, until finally they were just merged into Infinity Ward in 2015, becoming no more than a COD support team with no name, no logo, no nothing, ending one of the greatest, most legendary legacies of all time. This was sad to research and look through. I remember Neversoft being one of the greatest things to always look forward to when I was growing up. I mean, popping in a Tony Hawk's game, seeing that eyeball logo get pierced in many different ways always let you know you were in for a good time. I miss Neversoft. They were truly one of the most creative, wild, and fun development studios I've ever seen when researching. They had fun with it, did their own thing, and just went with the flow. And even created some of the most fun experiences just from the simplicity of reusing their engine. The fact they were able to, with such a simple in-house engine, just keep reusing it to make whatever new ideas they had is really impressive. I had a blast with Gun, and I had a blast with the Tony Hawk series. And knowing that they both use the same engine and were able to pull off such great games with such simplicity made them even better to me. I miss Neversoft, and I wish I could have them back. But sadly, in the new world of gaming we now live in, where the only thing that matters is making half-assed games, hiring random people that don't know shit about development, and just having corporate shells that could care less if the game's good or not making games, I think this era is long dead. Hopefully, the indie scene can bring it back. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the documentary. I had a lot of fun researching it and had a blast putting it together and researching Neversoft. I hope you guys enjoyed, and like I said, make sure to head over to Amazon or Kindle and pick up a copy of my book, The Construction Worker, using the link below, on my Twitter, or by searching up and looking for the cover. Bye, guys.